Today I got a couple very cool Jazzmasters, one from the Vintera collection and one straight out of the custom shop. We're going to do a little cheap-ish versus expensive on some very cool Jazzmasters. Stick around. How's it going, guys? My name is Cooper Greenberg here at Alamo Music Center in San Antonio, Texas. You can find us online at alamomusic.com. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, turn your notifications on so you can see all the cool custom shop guitars that we got coming in, because it's a bunch. And check out the podcast. Fretboard Confessional is its name, and you can find it anywhere you get podcasts. I got the 3 most popular links in the description below. So check it out. We talk a lot about guitars on there, and we talk about certain things like what's the deal with the Jazzmaster, why was it introduced, why did it become unpopular to where it got discontinued, and maybe for a new and upcoming episode, why does nobody seem to get it right? But I think we got an answer over here. This custom shop gets it right, but I'm going to start off with the Vintera. We're doing cheap versus expensive today, and the Vintera series is not a cheap guitar. It is right around the $1,300 mark. That is the indicative price of a professional grade instrument, in my opinion. So you should be getting something that will last forever and do everything that it's supposed to do, and it does. But I'm going to dive into the specs a little bit, and we'll get to the custom shop guy over there. So, Vintera series, vintage era, little portmanteau for you right there. And a lot of people that know about these like them and they get them, but they often get overshadowed by their player series companions that are a little bit less expensive, a little bit more broad in what they kind of aim to capture in a guitar. But these are sort of the equivalent to what the American Factory has done with the vintage and original series, and what Squier does with the classic vibe. They shoot for a certain era of a guitar that's famous. They pick and choose some good features and kind of recreate what was going on in general and say, the 60s with the Jazzmaster. So, launched in 1958. This is a Jazzmaster from the 60s. So, it's not very, very early Jazzmaster, but it's sort of an amalgamation of what went on in the 60s. These are hot 60s Jazzmaster pickups. And the reason why I went with the Vintera over the Player series, because that is a cheaper guitar, and so it makes more sense in a cheap versus expensive. The Player Jazzmaster does not have Jazzmaster pickups. It has humbuckers. So really it's just an offset humbucker guitar. The Jazzmaster pickups is what gives the guitar its unique sound. They're single coils. They look like P90s. They're not P90s. They're these wide single coils that are referred to as the Jazzmaster pickup. They are their own thing, and P90s are very cool too, but if you get yourself a Jazzmaster, you got to get one with Jazzmaster pickups. There are also Squier versions, and there's other stuff that you can get into. I'm not saying the cheapest versus the most expensive. I'm just saying relatively this guitar is cheaper than the one that we are comparing it to, which is fine by me. So the other element that you're going to need to have a Jazzmaster is the rhythm circuit, which are these fancy switches up top. You got your 3-way switch down below. On some Jazzmasters, you got 2-tone controls, like the Ultra. You have 2-tone controls and a volume. The classic volume and tone master, all right? 3-way switch, and then the toggle up here, you go upwards with it, it switches into the rhythm circuit, which bypasses everything down here. You're in a warm voiced neck pickup setting, and then these 2 slider roller controls become your volume and your tone. So you got a few different options. It was introduced like the Jaguar as a high-end professional instrument with some more options to get away from Telecaster and Strat. The offset body was designed, like the name suggests, jazz players often sit down a little more ergonomic for you. So it's a comfortable guitar, it's a cool guitar. I play a Jazzmaster, I'm a big fan of Jazzmasters, and I feel like if you're looking for one, which might be the reason you're watching this video, we've done a ton of content on Jazzmasters, you know how much I like them, but I would recommend you get one with Jazzmaster pickups and a rhythm circuit so you can really get the full effect of what the Jazzmaster is supposed to be. The This one in particular has a POW Ferro fingerboard, and I say that so we can compare it to the more expensive version. It's got vintage style tuners and a 9.5-inch radius, so it is sort of modern leaning. It is the Vintera 60s modified, so there are modifications, obviously. Polyurethane finish in the nice 3-color sunburst, the standard Jazzmaster locking floating trem, so you can lock it, you can leave it floating. Might want to lock it just in case you break a string if you're going crazy with some indie rock whammy bar stuff. But by all means, a really great guitar, and if you're looking for a Jazzmaster, if you can, and you're in between, say, an American performer, a player, and sticking in that range between $800 and $1,500, look at the Vintera 60s modified. It's a great guitar. So that being said, we're going to dive into the Custom Shop one, and we never ever see Custom Shop Jazzmasters, mainly because Chris McKee doesn't believe me that they're as popular. He wants the Strats and he wants the no-casters and all that stuff. But he did me a favor and he got us the 62 Custom Shop Jazzmaster, and it did not disappoint. So I'm going to dive into that one. And first, I'm going to pull out the Floor Traveler, because this is, if you're buying a custom shop, you're going to want this. It comes in every custom shop case. It lets you know spec by spec what they did in the factory, and it gives you your certificate of authenticity. We pretty much say it on any custom shop video, but make sure if you're buying one from anybody else besides Fender or an authorized dealer, make sure it has this so you know it's legit. But on the Floor Traveler of this guitar, this is a 1962 Jazzmaster in super faded sonic blue, super faded aged sonic blue. You got to get the word order correct, but it's a beautiful finish. Everybody likes sonic blue. It's washed out. It's got a ton of checking because it is a journeyman finish. So we've talked about levels of relicking in the custom shop. You go from your NOS, your new old stock, to the Closet Classic, which has been played a couple times, but basically kept in a case since 1962. And then you got Journeyman, and it's before you get into the really heavy relicking, from relic and then heavy relic, which is paint is scratched off and you got dings all over it. It's been played, but it's been well taken care of. It does have some dings, it's got a ton of checking, and it's got discoloration, but it's a beautiful looking guitar. So we've been doing this a lot. We go through the Floor Travelers because we get guitars that are all different years thrown into one and then called a 58 Strat, for instance. We had a 58 in Sherwood Green Metallic, beautiful guitar, but there was 54 components and 56, and it was all over the place. This majorly is a 62 Jazzmaster, and it's got the hand-wound Jazzmaster pickups. So like I said, get you some Jazzmaster pickups. This is pretty much as good as it gets. These are fantastic pickups, and you'll hear in the demo, this is a round lamb AAA grade rosewood fretboard as opposed to the POW Ferro. That right there is a huge component of why it's so much more expensive, because it's fantastic fretboard, beautiful neck. It does have the 9.5-inch radius as well. It's an alder body. It's a nitrocellulose lacquer finish, and the neck, it is kind of satiny because it's the journeyman finish, but you can feel it was gloss nitro. It's been rubbed kind of into this semi-gloss satiny nitro finish. It feels fantastic. The neck on the Vintera is a satin finish neck, which is cool. And this guitar, if you're interested in the guitar, we'll definitely send you every spec that's in here. It's just fun to kind of go through and see what they got going on here. I love the clay dots on the fretboard. It's just a great look, nod to the classic. But and I love the pickguard on this too, because it's kind of a sort of 4-ply thing going on. Tortoiseshell works great with the super faded aged sonic blue. But the true test comes in with the pickups and how it sounds. I've got a lot of opinions. I want to hear you guys. I want to have you guys hear them first. Played a little bit on the Vintera 60s modified, a little bit on the 62 Jazzmaster from the Custom Shop. I'll tell you my thoughts on the other end. So you heard them, now let's talk about them. First off, the Vintera 60s Modified. This guitar feels like a Jazzmaster, and I think it sounds like one as well, but the biggest problem for me is those hot 60s Jazzmaster pickups. They were super biting, very, very trebly. I had both of these going through the Hot Rod Deluxe, no, the Blues Junior, as you saw, because the Hot Rod Deluxe is still missing tubes, but it's in the back, so it's still getting some attention. But we were going through the Blues Junior, EQs all exactly the same, straight up the middle, a little bit of reverb. The difference in the sound of these pickups was very jarring to me, and I'm sure it came across in the demo as well. These are super duper hot on the Vintera and lack a ton of the warmth that I really expect from a Jazzmaster. So I think that was the biggest thing for me that kind of signaled the difference between these two. I loved this one much more when you went into the rhythm circuit, but the rhythm circuit is supposed to be for your rhythm tone, and it would be hard for me to use the lead circuit on the Vintera without doing a ton of extra EQing on the amp, through pedals and all that. I just think it was a little too bright, a little too trebly, a little too hot. The Custom Shop on the other end sounded beautiful to me in every single position and still kept a very drastic kind of change from the lead to the rhythm circuit. For me, on my Ultra Jazzmaster, the rhythm circuit is replaced with an out-of-phase circuit, and you've got a switch in there that sends both pickups into series. I like that series mode, but when it comes down to it, I really feel like I would enjoy the rhythm circuit and just having the ability to use the sort of four standard pickup selections of a Jazzmaster. Sometimes with extra switching, you've heard me talk about it before on other videos, I think it's a little bit of overkill. So, some about this one being as simple and tried and true as a Jazzmaster can be, definitely prefer the sound of this guitar over this one. I'm going to talk a little bit, I'm going to set this one down, and kind of muse about why I think you have to go this high sometimes to find what, at least ideally in my head, a Jazzmaster sounds like. And I think it's because they, no offense, but I think they've made some mistakes on other core models of Jazzmasters. When they did the Performers, they got rid of all the switching. It was just three-way switch. And, I get it's supposed to be streamlined down, but it destroys the whole vibe of what a Jazzmaster is supposed to be. In the Player series, it's humbuckers, which are cool and they're fine, but when it comes down to it, like I said, you want the Jazzmaster pickups. So a lot of the different options, I think the American Pro 2 is a beautiful example of a Jazzmaster, and coincidentally, we cannot keep them in stock because people know that and they want them. They're always gone. But the Pro 2 is a fantastic Jazzmaster, and there's just something. Those are VMod 2 pickups. These ones, they have the vintage sound and the feel. These are great for jazz music, but also for surf music and rock and roll. They've been co-opted by the entire Gen Z scene of Coachella people that want offsets because they look cool and they fit the vibe. And I think it was, there was some other video that I was watching about the guitars that people were playing at Coachella. And then I'm sure you could do the same thing for Pitchfork Fest and Lollapalooza and ACL. Young bands are playing offset Fender guitars. They like Jazzmasters, they like Jaguars, and there's just something about the look and the feel that I think fits, and it's something desirable by a lot of players. I fell into that trap, and that's why I bought one. And a whole other conversation, which we actually did talk about on the podcast, is it's all Fender, no matter what, even if it's old school bands, a lot of, legendary legacy acts, they play their Gibsons, they play a PRS and all that, but a lot of them play Fenders. But anybody that's young and playing at these festivals, I think there was a count even to see how many were playing Fenders and then how many of those were offsets, Jaguars and Jazzmasters, and then some of the weird stuff like the Leads and the Noventas. Fender's obviously getting their guitars in the hands of kind of the young tastemaker band crowd. That being said, if you want to get more Jazzmasters into the hands of more players, I think stick to the formula. And obviously this guitar is out of the range for many, including myself. Now, I've been talking a lot about how great this guitar is. The Vintera is a fantastic option. Just know that you might need to sort of work on that super trebly end. I didn't even turn down the tone knob because I want you to hear it maxed out, high volume, high tone, both at 10, so you can hear what it sounds like. But there's so much that can be done with the tone knob on a guitar to sort of curb all that super biting high end. And if you're playing some lead guitar, you might want that high end anyway that's on that Vintera Jazzmaster. A lot of different guitars in that price range, Strats and Tellies, are going to be very bright because the pickups in that range, they just often come out bright. Unfortunately, sometimes you got to go real high end to get something that's super balanced, but there are a lot of different options out there. So obviously, we did another cheap versus expensive video today that may or may not have come out already. It's important for me to say, obviously the expensive one's going to win because they put all this extra work, a lot of it's hand done, the finishing, the pickup quality, the wood quality, even just the round lamb, AAA grade, crazy rosewood on here. That's just a cool thing. Clay dots, the finishing on the neck. It's just, and not to mention how cool are those brass saddles. You're not going to get brass saddles on a Jazzmaster many other places right now, but the formula's there. This is an incredible example of what a Jazzmaster could and should be. But like I said, if you're going to go for something else, try, in my opinion, unless you need humbuckers, you just want something offset, try and go for something that follows the formula because the Vintera is a great choice across everything else, Strats and Tellies. Vintera guitars, often overlooked, but a really good option for somebody that enjoys sort of the vintage era vibe. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you could hear the difference in the sound because, sometimes it's different. I'm sitting right by the amp, but I think the way we record it, you should be able to hear the difference. Let me know if you prefer one over the other. If you're interested in either of these, we do have one Custom Shop Jazzmaster, but we have a lot of different options for Jazzmasters right now in stock. So search Jazzmaster on our website. I'll link both of these individually in the description below. But if you want to learn more about Jazzmasters and everything we've got in stock, give us a call, go on the website, ask questions, send us an email. You can call, ask for me. I'd love to talk about Jazzmasters, and I'm always around. So please give us a call. Let us know what you want to see next. We got some incredible custom shops in right now that break the mold a little bit outside of your normal two-color sunburst 50s Strat. Those are amazing too, but it's nice to switch it up a little bit. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.